Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome. I don't know about you, but that video really got me excited and really gave me goosebumps about the incredible women leaders that we have here in our community. Thank you for joining us this evening and our fourth annual InspiHER celebration. I'm Michelle McCollum, Chair of Brampton Board of Trade, and by day Associate Vice President with Sheridan College. This is the event where we celebrate women in our community, those who have broken down barriers, those who continue to champion human rights and equity and inclusion, those who continue to exemplify business excellence and community leadership. As we think about the importance of the conversation that we're going to have here this evening, I'd like to acknowledge that the land on which we virtually gather and the region of Peel is part of the treaty lands and the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. For thousands of years, Indigenous peoples have inhabited and cared for this land. In particular, we acknowledge the territory of the Nishnawbe, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Ojibwe Chippewa peoples, the land that is home to the Métis, and most recently the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, who are direct descendants of the Mississaugas of the Credit. As you may be joining us from different locations, we acknowledge the many diverse nations and territories that you're joining from. It's our collective responsibility to honour and respect those who have gone before us, those who are here, and those who have yet to come. I share this land acknowledgement because it's important to be aware and respect Indigenous presence and land rights, and to articulate our gratitude for the opportunity to be living, working, and learning on this land. So before we get further into tonight's event, for some of you, it may be the first time you're using our fabulous platform, Hopin platform. So let me take a moment to point out some of the highlights that we're using. So on the left of your screen, hopefully you've already noticed and taken advantage of the networking and expo areas of the platform. If you haven't seen them yet, don't worry, you'll have an opportunity to do so later on. You'll see on the right-hand side of your screen, the chat is ready and available for questions and chatting. If you do need any help at all, you're welcome to ask questions at any time to my amazing friends, Justina, Lorraine, and Christy, who are virtually there and ready to help. InspiHER is an event that started 4 years ago with a conversation about what was missing from local International Women's Day celebrations. And it was recognised that Brampton needed an event that focused on celebrating the leadership of women in business and in the community. An inclusive event that would bring together Brampton Board of Trade network and our community leaders to provide a platform to share, learn, and inspire. And voila, InspiHER was born. An evening to come together and really celebrate each other. For 2021, our theme is Choose to Challenge, looking at ways that we can challenge gender bias, the inequities that we see and experience, and to find ways to encourage each other and to learn with each other. Throughout the evening, you will have the opportunity to hear from my amazing friends and colleagues from our board of directors, who I am sure you will agree are incredible women and incredible leaders. You'll also have the chance to meet in some small discussion groups to learn a bit more about them. We will be honouring a special member of our community with the Nasim Samani Memorial Award for Leadership Excellence. Throw in some more networking and a fabulous video, and we're going to have a really fun and exciting evening. So back to the campaign theme for International Women's Day 2021, which is Choose to Challenge. And I wanted just to share with you the statement that's on the global website to explain a bit more about the theme. A challenged world is an alert world. Individually, we're all responsible for our thoughts and actions all day, every day. We can all choose to challenge and call out gender bias and inequality. We can all choose to seek out and celebrate women's achievements. Collectively, we can help create an inclusive world. From challenge comes change. So let's all choose to challenge. International Women's Day is not based in one country, in one group, doesn't belong to one organisation. It belongs to all of us collectively, everywhere. Gloria Steinem, world-renowned feminist, journalist, and activist, once explained, "The story of women's struggle for equality belongs to no single feminist, nor to any one organisation, but to the collective efforts of all who care about human rights." So make International Women's Day your day and do what you can to truly make a positive difference for women. I would like to recognise a number of businesses and organisations here this evening who have supported this event, and in doing so are supporting women leaders in Brampton. So a huge thank you to Rogers Communications and Goodison Insurance for coming on board as silver sponsors. We're also happy to have the ongoing support of Bell Canada and Sheridan College. I have to say that with joy in my voice, as gold sponsors. Maple Lodge Farms not only supports Connect Work as title sponsors throughout the year, but has demonstrated commitment to women in leadership through their support of tonight's event. So thank you so much, Maple Lodge, and to our past chair, Vanessa. I would like to invite you to join me now in welcoming our first guest this evening, Vito Ciceretto from Dynacare, as our presenting sponsor to bring us greetings. Vito is well known in the Brampton community as a compassionate, decisive, and inspiring business leader. And throughout the past year, each of these qualities have been on full display. Since the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, Vito has stepped up to support not only the Brampton community, but also communities, public health systems, and employees across the country. Vito and his organisation have demonstrated incredible drive, compassion, and collaboration in providing critical support to public health systems and communities all across Canada. While Dynacare's laboratories team worked diligently to validate and implement COVID-19 specimen testing at several lab locations, beginning with their main lab here in Brampton, Dynacare courier teams transported COVID-19 specimens in communities across Canada. Throughout 2020, and indeed his entire career, Vito has stood as an inspiring example of what it means to be a leader in business. Through his compassion, commitment, and drive, he has made an immeasurable positive impact in so many ways. We are looking forward to the Business Excellence Awards on May 9th, which, spoiler alert, we will be honouring, and delighted to recognise Vito and present him with the prestigious award and title of 2021 Business Person of the Year. Vito, I'm so happy to welcome you to our virtual stage.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for that such a warm welcome. And thank you all for being here tonight. We at Dynacare are so proud to be a presenting sponsor for this event. And it's truly an honor to help celebrate the achievements of so many incredible women in business within the Brampton community. Throughout my life, I've been blessed with the presence, the support, and the wisdom of strong, intelligent women who have always chosen to challenge their roles within the workplace, the family, and society as a whole. And because tonight is about celebrating outstanding women in our community and in our lives, I would like to take a moment to recognize some of the women who have inspired me and those around me. Growing up, I was fortunate to be able to include a number of incredible women among my close friends and confidants. Many of these women have not only gone on to shatter paradigms in their chosen careers, but have also raised their own daughters who continue to advance the cause of gender equality in the workplace, on the sports field, and beyond. I'm also incredibly lucky to have two amazing sisters, both of whom have thriving careers and beautiful families, serving as powerful role models to both their children and my own. They are both a constant source of inspiration for myself and everyone around them. I've also been blessed to be married to a wonderful life partner for 26 years, who's a stay at home mom that takes care of our family's every need, even before we know it. She often sacrifices so much, and her ability to manage multiple competing priorities and tasks, particularly in this pandemic environment, with grace, humbles me. As I entered my own career journey, I benefited greatly from the support and wisdom of many inspiring women. Early in my career, I was fortunate enough to work for a leader who helped me to develop not only in my abilities as a leader, but also as a person. Having risen to a level in the organization that no other woman had reached before, she personified challenging the status quo and always encouraged me to do the same. As my career progressed, I had the opportunity to work with a number of women who have been incredible role models for others. Women who have refused to be stereotyped, women who have inspired those around them, and who have asserted themselves and their careers in spite of the challenges that women often encounter in doing so. One of those women was Nasim Samani. As the former CEO of Dynacare, it was Nasim who hired me as the vice president of operations at our organization. My pedigree and experience made me an unconventional choice for the role, but Nasim had the courage to take a chance on me and introduce a different mindset to the laboratory setting. She believed that a high quality manufacturing approach was required to enhance our operations. And my experience in aerospace design and manufacturing matched well with this strategy. It was these kinds of decisions that made Nasim unique. She challenged conventional wisdom. She shattered paradigms that limited growth and progress. And above all, she believed in people. This unique combination of drive, compassion, and courage are what made her successful in her own life and career, what shaped our vision and values at Dynacare, and what inspire me to this very day. I feel incredibly privileged to have learned the business under Nasim's leadership and guidance. And now, as CEO of the company, I feel similarly privileged to continue working with so many inspiring women. Our Dynacare leadership team, for instance, includes 3 outstanding women, each with their own unique experiences and backgrounds, bringing incredible drive, dedication, and a wealth of knowledge to their respective functions. They each play a critical role in shaping our strategy, our vision, and Dynacare itself. The woman who has inspired me throughout my entire life, though, is my mother. Immigrating to Canada from Italy at a very young age to start a new life and family, she had very little education, but more than made up for it with passion and drive. Throughout her entire life, she refused to accept stereotypical gender roles that would have had her stay home and focus solely on housework and raising her children. And for as long as I can remember, she always held down a job to support us, whether working in a light bulb factory, as a dry cleaner, or in a paper factory. Through both her words and actions, she taught me that the only limitations in life are those that we place on ourselves. That failure only means we are one step closer to success, and that we can be better, we can do more, and can change the landscape by refusing to accept the status quo and forge our own paths. My mother and the many outstanding women who have inspired me throughout my life are all unique in their experiences and achievements, though there's only one thing they certainly have in common. Like all the women we are celebrating here tonight, they have chosen to challenge. So here's to choosing to challenge, to celebrating the achievements of those who do so, and coming together to make a positive difference for women in Brampton, in Canada, and around the world. Thank you.
Vito, thank you so much for those really inspiring and really authentic remarks. We're so appreciative for all of the support that you give to the Board of Trade and everything you do for Brampton. And I can't wait to see you. If I don't see you before, I will definitely see you on May 9th, and I can't wait to see you there.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you
I
so
look forward
much.
to it.
I'm now delighted to welcome and introduce our next guest, Mayor Patrick Brown. Mayor Brown, it's lovely to see you again. So Mayor Brown and I had a lovely conversation at the State of the City luncheon just about a month ago, I think, Mayor Brown. So how are things going with you?
Good. It's an exciting night to see a city councillor honored, and it's great to be here for this annual Board of Trade event. And may I say, Michelle, you talk about International Women's Day. When I think of the Board of Trade, I think of strong, successful women in our community. If you look at the power at the Board of Trade, it's Michelle McCollum and Vanessa White. Year after year. And so you're a living, breathing example of women making a difference in our community. But I wanted to come tonight, just briefly bring greetings from the city of Brampton. Obviously, the Nasim Samani Memorial Leadership Excellence Award is something that I just thought was a beautiful tribute to an incredible trailblazer in our community. And the fact that you've selected I guess it's not officially announced, but the person you've selected tonight, I just wanted to say we're very proud of her at the city of Brampton, being a trailblazer herself. And after you've officially announced it, I look forward to more personally highlighting why I thought that was a beautiful choice. But thank you to the Board of Trade for being a fierce voice for our community, for businesses in our community, and thank you for, in the midst of that responsibility with businesses, creating a platform to help with the celebration of International Women's Day. We're going to have a virtual celebration in the city of Brampton on March 8th, but this has become a staple event leading up to the March 8th event. And so congratulations on this initiative. And as always, thank you for being a great partner with the city of Brampton.
Thank you so much, Mayor Brown, for joining us today and for your continued support of Brampton's business community and for your kind words. We really appreciate it. I'd now like to move to the next portion of our evening. In 2019, we lost a very important member of our business community, a giant in corporate Canada. Nasim Samani, former CEO of Dynacare, was an outstanding business leader who was known for both her competitive and collaborative spirit. In growing her business, she demonstrated that through collaboration and working together, we can achieve great things. We can grow our community, our province, our nation, and beyond. Earlier in my career, I was really fortunate to meet Nasim. Her thoughtfulness, kindness, how down to earth she was, it's just something that has really had a lasting impression on me. In recognition of her outstanding leadership, the Brampton Board of Trade has established a special excellence award in Nasim's honour, the Nasim Samani Memorial Award for Leadership Excellence. The award recognises Nasim's profound impact on the lives of many, particularly business leaders. The award is designed to recognise, inspire, develop and encourage women's personal and professional leadership. It's exactly these traits, among many other virtues, that Nasim was known for and for which she has left a lasting legacy. Beginning in 2020, the award has been presented to a deserving woman that demonstrates leadership, innovation, service and overall contribution to women. I'm so pleased to introduce Elena Samani, daughter of Nasim. We also have a number of Nasim's family members in the audience with us today, and I would like to extend a very warm welcome to you and thanks so much for joining us this evening. Elena, it's lovely to see you again. I'm so happy that you're here to present the award to this year's worthy recipient. Over to you, Elena.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Hi, everyone, and thanks so much once again to the Brampton Board of Trade for continuing to honor my mom through this Excellence Award. She has always admired women in leadership and would want the female leaders of our future to shatter glass ceilings and be so proud of what they have accomplished. Tonight, we are happy to present this award to Councillor Charmaine Williams. Ms. Williams' selection as the 2021 recipient is a well-deserved honor. It is in recognition of her leadership and overall contribution to women in our community. The selection committee looked highly upon her independent thinking and strong moral compass in decision making. Her work in bringing awareness to the key safety issues in the city to improve the lives of residents is also being acknowledged through this award. Prior to venturing into politics, Ms. Williams has a wealth of experience as a multi-systemic therapist in a career spanning 19 years. In her advocacy work, Ms. Williams has been the voice of families and children of all ages, coping with such vices as domestic violence, mental illness, substance abuse, neglect, trauma, and related personal challenges. In her line of work, Ms. Williams has worked in a number of therapeutic programs and partnered with organizations such as the Associated Youth Services of Peel, the Youth Substance Abuse Program, the Peel Children's Center, and the Reach Out Center for Kids in the Peel and Halton region to help alleviate suffering of vulnerable families and their children. In 2018, Ms. Williams became the first Black woman elected to the Brampton City Council, where she now represents Wards 7 and 8. Ms. Williams was elected based on her strong beliefs, values, and courage in the advocacy for vulnerable persons and children within the community, as well as her professional ethos and personal experiences. In her time on council, Charmaine Williams has championed a number of important initiatives, including the proclamation to declare Pink Shirt Day in the city of Brampton to create awareness of bullying, gun buyback programs offering cash to people who turn in their unwanted firearms to the Peel Regional Police, naming Jurassic Square in downtown Brampton during the 2019 NBA playoffs, allowing residents to watch the game live and as a community, and advocating for a business compensation program, requesting that the federal government ensure appropriate compensation programs are in place for businesses experiencing worker absences due to COVID-19 cases. Strongly held beliefs and courage in the advocacy for vulnerable persons and children within the community also added to the committee's selection. As a community leader, mother, and advocate and champion, she's setting an example for women to follow in her footsteps. I'm pleased to present this award to Ms. Williams tonight in recognition of the work you have done and are continuing to do in our community. Thank you for your dedication to women's leadership.
I'm touched. Thank you, Board of Trade, Brampton Board of Trade, for this honor. I'm so very honored to be awarded the 2021 Nasim Samani Memorial Leadership Excellence Award. Nasim Samani built and climbed from controller to vice president of operations to becoming DynaCare CEO in 2005. Wow, she came, she saw, and she conquered. Nasim Samani is a shining example of a woman who helped to create a better, healthier Canada. She did so by expanding DynaCare across the country and by fostering a culture that supported healthy lives with commitment and care. She possessed the will and the leadership skills to fuse such aspiration through the organization. As a woman, I understand that Nasim Samani could not have attained her incredible achievements without facing obstacles and without facing hardships. Now, I know this personally. On September 23rd, 2017, I had my 5th child, Malcolm. And less than a week later, I knew something was wrong. And I went back to the hospital. And it was discovered that I had suffered a massive brain hemorrhage. I spent 1 month in the hospital, and then I was released. Again, in my gut, I knew something was wrong. And again, I was readmitted to the hospital because I had a cyst on my kidney that my body was septic and I was dying. But with the doctors and the nurses' care at William Osler, and with the love and prayers from my family and my friends, and with my will to live, and with the grace of God, I survived. I survived. And I learned that life is way too short. If you want a wake-up call, that's a wake-up call. I now wanted a change. I needed to make a change. And on July 15th, 2018, I made the commitment. I signed the papers to run in the upcoming election. Canvassing was often lonely. Some days they were long, but my solace came from those who did open their doors and their lives to express their hopes and fears for a wonderful city. And one by one, residents taught me their vision for a better Brampton. I learned that gun violence was a deep disruptive fear for our residents, and I committed to address their concerns head on. So my team and I, we drew up petitions and launched the gun buyback campaign. I also heard loudly that road safety was a major concern amongst residents, so we started the Please Slow Down sign campaign. Now these issues resonated, yet on election day, the polling stations that had their results come in early showed me coming in third. And so I began to thank and apologize to my small but mighty team. And we proceeded to go to meet my friends and family at the Governor's Pub in Bramalea. But before I could get in the door, my phone was ringing and people were screaming. And that's when we found out that I had won. And I was so happy and so grateful and so exhausted. Winning, however, came with its own challenges, and I faced new resistance and personal attacks. But the 19 years in children's mental health, knowing that I've committed my life to serving others, that's always been my goal. And many times I've been disappointed, but I've never felt broken because I remember where I came from and I remember my struggles. So now on my office wall, any of you who come to my office, you'll see Isaiah 54:17. And those who know it, say it out loud. No weapons that formed against you shall prosper. And that's there as a reminder of the struggles that I faced and that I have overcome. So as I accept the 2021 Nasim Samani Memorial Leadership Excellence Award, I accept this with the greatest humility. I'm humbled because it comes with great responsibility to boldly face today the challenges of change and to earn tomorrow's victories, and to boldly face the challenges of today to earn tomorrow's victories. That must be our collective ambition. Because together, our strength, our formidable force, teaches us to remember that even in our darkest hours, that no weapon, and those weapons could be naysayers, discrimination, our tired, ailing bodies when we feel like we've reached our limit, those internal fleeting fears, and those daunting doubts, no weapon can prosper, especially when we stand together, steadfast to grab our moment of victory. So it is when we commit ourselves to our vision, to our dream, that we align ourselves with Nasim Samani's spirit, a spirit of relentless tenacity, a spirit of compassion and of love. Her spirit reminds us that our strength is rooted in our passion. It is a seed within us and blooms in all of the deeds that we do. Our will gives birth to it, but it lives in everything we do. So let's stand together in remembrance of Nasim Samani's spirit and honor it with renewed commitment to our greater selves. Elena, you have a beautiful mom, and I wish I could have met her face to face. And I just want to thank all of you at Brampton Board of Trade for carrying on in her spirit. And I do not take this lightly. I really don't. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor Williams, for sharing your incredible story and an important message, and congratulations. I have to say, I think it's just incredible to watch how you are continuing to be such a strong leader. While you have 5 children, how is that humanly possible? And I have to say, I was kind of looking at you, maybe a little bit stalking on Facebook. You have a really great post about sharing how you're coping during the pandemic, how you were dealing with homeschooling, prioritizing, how you deal with parenting. So if you're looking for some amazing tips and advice, look onto Councillor Williams's Facebook page.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for everything that you're continuing to do for all of us, Councillor Williams. It's incredible. Thank you.
I'm touched. Thank you so much, and I'll keep doing it. I'm here to serve.
Absolutely, thank you. Earlier this year, the federal government issued a challenge to corporate and non-profit boards across Canada. Some of you may have heard of this challenge, and it's relevant for most organisations, and that's the 50-30 challenge. And the goal of the programme is to challenge Canadian organisations to increase the representation and inclusion of diverse groups while highlighting the benefit this brings. So the 50-30 challenge asks organisations to aspire to 2 goals. One is gender parity, 50%, and the 30% is significant representation, at least 30% of underrepresented groups, including racialized persons, people living with disabilities, and members of the LGBTQ community. So it's something that's definitely front of mind for the Board of Trade, and our Board of Directors has met this goal for the last 4 years. So we always look for ways to continue to advance inclusivity in all that we do. And so let's all of us pledge to do what we can in our organisations to meet that standard, and important to recognise that we can all play a part. It's through the work of women like Nasim, the 2020 award recipient Linda Ford, and the 2021 award recipient that we've just met, Councillor Williams. And everyone who is here this evening, regardless of gender identity or expression, together we will continue to celebrate, encourage, and empower women. So I'm very excited for the next portion of our evening, and we've called this portion Empowering Introductions. It's a chance for everyone to learn a bit more about some of my friends and esteemed colleagues from the Board of Directors from Brampton Board of Trade. And you're about to meet them and learn a bit more about them. So for this portion, we were asked to tell you about an experience in which we've been aware of gender inequality, or a time when we've become aware that there is more work to be done on providing opportunities for women in business. And I've been asked to start by sharing one of my experiences, and then I'm going to pass along to one of my friends from the Board of Directors. So the experience that I'd like to share is one that I actually recently shared on a Connect Work event, and many of you may have been there. And it was about the time when, many years ago, over 30 years ago now, as a young 17-year-old, I began my career as an apprentice, an apprentice quantity surveyor in the construction industry. And so that involved going on to construction sites. And I remember the first day, the first site meeting that I went to, and I walked onto the job site, and someone said to me, who are you and what are you doing here? So I explained. And then they said, well, why would someone like you get a job like that? And I was confused. And he said, that's a man's job. And that's the reason that there's high unemployment, because women are taking men's jobs. And I thought he was joking at first, but then I realized that no, he was unfortunately actually completely serious. So, you know, I was already doubting my career choice, my decision. So, you know, went back to my office and, you know, was feeling really disengaged and questioning, should I even continue in this career? And then something happened, and this is the part I didn't share at my the last time I shared the story, and that's about what someone did about it. Because I was sitting at my desk, and those were the days you didn't get email, you just got phone calls, and my phone rang. Imagine that, being at a desk when your phone rings. Unusual for these days. So I answered the phone, and it was the chief architect of the whole organization, someone who was really important. And he said to me, I heard something happened today. Can you share with me what happened? And so I explained to him what happened. And he said to me, I need to let you know that this is not okay, and I'm going to do something about it. Now, what he did, I would certainly not say that it was the ideal way to deal with that situation in this day and age. However, it did two important things. It sent a message to the organization about what kind of behavior could be to be tolerated. And it did something for me, because it actually made me stay in that job, and it made me pursue my career. And I wouldn't be here today if he hadn't done that. So I think it's important to recognize that all of us have a part to play, and all of us can challenge behavior, and can challenge behavior to make sure that we do support each other, whatever industry we're in and whatever situation that we're in. So that's my story, and I'd now like to hand over to someone who I greatly admire. She is the past chair of Brampton Board of Trade, and she is also Chief Human Resources Officer at Maple Lodge Farms, Vanessa White. So it's my pleasure to introduce Vanessa, and I'd also like to I was invited to say one thing that I admire about Vanessa, and it was difficult to pick one thing. And I've had the opportunity to share with you before, Vanessa, a lot of the things that I admire about you, but there's one thing I haven't, and that is that you are a great public speaker. You're always on point, you're super engaging, and you can actually be pretty funny sometimes too. So with that, I will leave you with Vanessa.
Thank you so much, Michelle. No pressure. Now that you've told me I'm a good public speaker, now you want me to publicly speak. No pressure there at all. But thank you so much, and I'm happy to have had lots of opportunities to tell you all the things I admire about you too. And we're thrilled to have you as our chair this year, and just feeling so good and confident to have you leading us through 2021. So thank you for that. I will share with you a time that I certainly became really aware that there was gender inequality in the world. And I think it was probably the first time I really realized it. I used to work for a big consumer packaged goods company, and I specialized in labor relations. And I went to the US for a meeting of all of the kind of regional labor relations leads. And I was, not surprisingly, the only female in the room. And it was 2 days of meetings. And after I got home from the meetings the first day, I called my mom, as I used to often do when I was on the road. And this is probably going back probably close to 15 or more years now. And I said, "Hey, mom, you never told me I was a girl." And she said, "What do you mean?" And I said, I really realized today. Um, that I'm a female, and that that makes me different. And she said, "Why is that?" And I said, "Well, because I just spent a whole day in meetings where a topic would come up, and I would jump in to say something or express an idea or give an opinion. And those of you who know me know that I'm not shy. I'm not shy to do that in any way. And every time I did it, I would get kind of the equivalent of the pat on the head, oh, that's a nice thing she said, kind of reaction. And then at least 4 times that day, within the next 2 or 3 people that spoke into the topic, someone repeated exactly what I said. Um, and all of the other men in the room would be like, oh my God, that's such a good idea, or what a great observation. And so she said, oh, you're probably just imagining it, right? So I went back, the meetings the next day, and sure enough, the same thing happened. And it was just, honestly, it was a bit shocking to me. I couldn't even put together in my own brain what was happening. So I certainly became really aware that day that men and women are heard differently in business settings. And that no matter how much you try to adjust your message, sometimes your gender does get in the way. What I will say is, kind of fast forward to today, and while I'm sure that does still happen, I think women have a much different voice in the boardroom or in the meeting room than they used to. I think that we're now appreciated for the different perspectives that we bring, and I can honestly tell you that I work with them. I'm 25% of an executive team at Maple Lodge, and the other 75% are male. But the fact that I always feel respected and listened to by that group. Put it this way, I don't work for that other company anymore, and I do work for Maple Lodge now. So that's what I would share. It is my pleasure to introduce Donna Pascal, who's we've worked together on the Board of Trade for, I guess, 2 or 3 years now. I guess 3 years. Donna is our incoming chair. And Donna, I don't know if I've ever told you this about you, but one of the things I truly admire about you is your listening skills. I like to talk, and a lot of us at the board like to talk. And when we have topics we get passionate about, there's a lot of talking. And what I love about Donna is that she sits and she listens, and she actively listens, which is something I could work on. And just when we think we've kind of got it all figured out, Donna will come in at the end having listened with the most insightful either summary or challenge to what we've come up with. And there's lots of times that it completely changes the conversation in the room. So Donna, I totally appreciate that about you. And I love what that brings to the dynamic in our Board of Trade boardroom. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you. That's very touching. I don't know if the folks at Dynacare would find me, would agree, but with my listening skills, but definitely it's been a pleasure being on the board. If I were to share a story about my challenge in leadership, I would really start at probably at the early stages of my career when I first stepped into my executive role. And I was working for a company in food service at the time, a great organization, however, very much male dominated. And I noticed that my superiors, when I would try and influence and shape the direction of a conversation, things were already kind of decided. And there was almost like there was a meeting before the meeting. And I couldn't understand the meeting. Like, was I not invited to the meeting? Was there a meeting? Like, when did this meeting occur? Because I thought the meeting was happening now. And I started to observe as, different things were happening in the workplace. Oh, they're on a hockey team together. So in the evening, they're going to play hockey. Oh, I'm going to this cigar bar. And so I started to notice that people within my colleagues and peers, they were mainly men, would socialize with my superiors, and that was their opportunity to influence and shape the discussion and shape the direction. So by the time I came on the scene, it was already done. They already talked about it. And in that time, most of the time they were going in a totally different direction. So I knew I couldn't compete with hockey. I hate ice skating and I hate hockey. Sorry, I'm probably not going to be very popular after this. And I do not smoke cigars. So I refused to join them. So I had to think of a different way to show up. And what I started to do was figure out, how can I build relationships with my boss differently? And what I started to do, randomly, I didn't book a meeting. I started just randomly phone him in the morning. Hey, how you doing? How was your weekend? You know, and start to have a lot more informal conversation. And then I would use that moment and that opportunity to say, you know, I've been thinking about this challenge we've been facing, and I have a few ideas, and I'm thinking about this and that. And I would socialize it with him at that time. And then he'd tell me concerns, and I would, okay, I'll go back and think about it. So by the time I actually had the meeting, when everybody was present, I would have had my own meeting before the meeting. And I started to notice a very different dynamic started occurring. And it was something, I think, as you know, sometimes women feel we have to join them. You know, did I have to join a hockey team, or did I have to start smoking? No, I wanted to be myself. I like basketball and I don't smoke. But I had to figure out a way to be myself, but at the same time achieve, you know, the same or better results. So that's my story that I can share. So the next person I have the pleasure to introduce is Joanne Ricochio. And Joanne is the Vice President of Bempro Global Group. When you read Joanne's profile and how she's described: dynamic, senior leader, persuasive, consistent, and professional, and very strategic by nature. But the time that I've spent with Joanne, what I really admire about her is just her calm disposition. You will be in the room and there's tons of activity happening, and she has such a calming presence. And no matter what is going around her, going on around her, Joanne just presents herself in such a very deliberate, very intellectual, but so calming. And when she speaks, her voice is very soft, but it's so effective, and everyone listens. And so I just love the way her presence and what she brings in the room. So Joanne, it's just been a pleasure working with you, and just I could learn about, I could definitely adopt some of your calm nature. My kids would probably say I probably need to spend a lot more time with you to learn from you. But definitely, it's a pleasure working with you.
Well, thank you very much, Donna, for the warm introduction. You're amazing. So for this evening, I'd like to talk about a light, funny example of when I first became aware of gender inequality. And this is going back 20 years, 20 years now. I can say it's light and funny now, but at the moment when it happened, it stopped me in my tracks. So first, for a bit of context, I grew up a tomboy, and I played a lot of competitive sport: basketball, ringette, hockey. I had the chance to compete at the provincial, national, and in world championships in typical male-based sports. So I never really identified with being the weaker sex. I was just a woman and enjoyed working in different manufacturing settings. In a former life, I was overseeing marketing and business development for a small business unit. I was rather pregnant at the time. It was my first pregnancy. And one of our key customer accounts on a very large project was quickly starting to go sideways. So my boss, the GM, and his boss, the president, we meet. We're deliberating as to how we're going to diffuse the situation. It was all pretty routine, perfectly routine stuff. We wrap up and we're all in agreement. And I close with, okay, sounds good. I'll set up the meetings quickly and as quick as possible, and I'll keep you posted. Well, both gentlemen, without missing a beat, their faces drop. They look aghast and in unison say, you can't go, you're pregnant. This was a routine interaction. Perhaps it was, chivalry on their part, but it certainly did not resonate with me at the time. I was truly taken aback. It stopped me in my tracks. Did I just hear that? Funny now, but it was a TSN turning point for me at the time that women could be perceived differently. I do agree with Vanessa and Donna. Women do have a very different voice now. And I also believe that women are uniquely well positioned to deal with, because of our abilities to multitask, to collaborate, uniquely well positioned to deal with complex, ever-changing environment. I believe the future does belong to women. Right now, I would like to introduce Kate. One of the things that I admire about Kate is her insightful skill to push a challenging point forward to ensure alternate perspectives are considered. She's committed to a robust treatment of a topic. So I present Kate.
Thank you so much, Joanne. I appreciate that very kind introduction. The story that I wanted to share this evening is actually pretty similar to what Vanessa shared. So I'm a lawyer, and the number of stories that I could share with you about the number of times that people either didn't think I could possibly be a lawyer, or that I had no idea what I was doing, or maybe some combination of the two, we would be here all night. So what I'd like to share with you is perhaps the most dramatic and frankly ridiculous uh, version of how that happened to me that you'll think I made up and was out of some sort of soap opera. But this really happened to me a few years ago. I was working with a male colleague. We were making some amendments to documents for a condo corporation. And the way we had organized things was that, he had focused on some of the changes. I had focused on other parts of the changes. And we went to the meeting for the condo corporation, their annual general meeting, to talk to the owners about what those changes look like, how it would all work, etc. And there came a time where one of the people in the audience, and I would say there were perhaps about 50 unit owners there, asked a specific question which related to the work I had been doing, and I answered them. And I kid you not, this is thankfully the only time I've had this happen to me. The whole room turned on a dime. The look of disgust on people's face. People literally shouted, "No, that's not right," and were up in arms about the answer I'd provided. So my colleague and I conferred for a minute. We looked at the paperwork. I showed him exactly where this change was that I'd been asked about. He agreed that yes, the answer I'd given was correct. And so a couple of minutes later, when he confirmed the same answer that I had just given, everybody more or less said, yeah, okay, and moved on with their life. And that was the end of that. So not a very pleasant experience, but unfortunately, all too typical as we've seen. As far as introductions go, my task today is to introduce you to my colleague, Shauna K. Jones. Shauna is the founder of Modify, and my inspiring story related to Shauna is actually one that I learned from her herself. I've had the opportunity to hear from Shauna how she came to found Modify, and I'm just so inspired that she started from a place of concern and caring for a family member and for a community. And from that was able to build such a wonderful platform to help so many people manage a otherwise difficult time when they weren't otherwise being supported. I find that drive to create incredibly inspiring. So over to you, Shauna K.
Thank you so much, Kate. I'm feeling all warms and fuzzies now from all of these stories. So I'm really excited to be here. And coming up with what I wanted to talk about. I remembered a couple years ago, I was introduced. I remembered a couple years ago. Can you hear me? I was introduced to a venture capitalist from a friend of mine who had a startup and said, "Hey, there's this great venture capitalist who, loves startups, and I'd love to introduce you to them." So that day I was having a pitch competition. So I rehearsed. I was ready to. My game face was on. I was ready to crush it. I met him before the pitch competition. I did my pitch and I thought I did really well, and I was really excited to kind of hear his response back. So I asked him, how did it go? He responded, it went really well. I'm going to need a white male co-founder in order to raise money, though. He likes me, he likes my product, but I'm not going to be able to raise money or to do this as a Black woman in technology. And I remember, as somebody who grew up where my family has always taught me, Shauna, work hard, you can do whatever, it really crushed my spirit. It was one of those things where for about a week, I was really contemplating stop doing what I wanted to do, because I felt, if people are not seeing me for who I am, and that wasn't enough. What was the point of continuing? And it took me really talking to other people, understanding the experiences, and going, if I'm having it this hard, what about everybody else? Right? If it's a challenge for me, I need to continue. But it was one of those things that time and time again, we forget that we have barriers as women, and as minority women, we have even extra layers of barriers. But it was one of those moments that truly told me that I'm on the right path. I need to challenge those expectations. I saw that person years later. He was shocked that I had a business going and I didn't need his money. And that's what I realized as well, is that if these are the people who I needed to raise my money to continue my business, this was not the way I was going to do it. I was going to work twice as hard. I was going to figure out other ways. And I was able to connect with people, like-minded people who saw me for me to continue on my journey. So that's my story today. I've been so privileged to be able to do my next introduction. I'm going to introduce Shauna, not only because I really love Shauna, not only because her name is the best. What I love about Shauna is I've seen Shauna's passion and drive. Whenever there's a challenge, whenever there's an obstacle, Shauna never goes, oh, I'm going to give up. She goes, I'm going to take 20 steps and I'm going to smile and I'm going to say everything is fine and I'm going to work it out. I've been so impressed seeing Shauna as a woman in engineering, a male dominated sector. I'm so proud. I'm so impressed by her and so happy to have her on the board. Over to you, Shauna.
And we do have the best possible name. And for the first time, I think, ever spelled the same way, too. So good on our parents for that. That was super inspiring. Thank you so much, Shauna. This group of ladies that we've got here being introduced tonight are awe-inspiring, not just inspiring. So thank you very much for that warm introduction. My story, as Shauna kind of alluded to, I've always been in a very male-dominated industry. I actually now have something in common with Michelle. We both started in construction at one point in our life. My father ran construction companies as all my life, and that was my first job. There was no part-time newspaper route or babysitting. It was, you're going to the work site. So I had that very realization early that men and women are different. But fast forward a few years, 15, maybe 20, maybe a little more, and I agree, we've come a long way. And what I think where we've come the furthest is that we've given women the power to have a voice. We've always had a voice, but we've never been really heard. And so my experience is actually very recent. It's within the last 5 years. And it's with very senior leadership team members in a very large industry in a very public sector. And I walked into a meeting room, and it was supposed to be a big meeting room. I was just supposed to be kind of a wallflower in this one. But as it turned out, the leadership team decided they wanted it to be very focused. Since all the work we were going to be discussing was mine, they just wanted a few folks in the room. So there were 3 executives and myself, who was an up-and-coming executive at the time 5 years ago. And we sat down, and one of them said, so where's everybody else? And one of the others said, it'll just be us girls today. How many women do you think were in that room at the time? 1. It was me. So it was a turn of phrase. No one had any intention of saying something hurtful at the time, but I, in the last 5-ish years, have the power now to be able to turn around and say, yes, at least there is one of us here today. And it took them aback because they didn't even realize, and this was the environment that I was working in. But that was a catalyst for change. Those executives never made that mistake again. Those executives have since hired female executives. And so, it's all of those little interactions and little experiences that I think have amounted to where we are today and how we can build going forward. So I'm so proud of the group of ladies that I've seen so far today. And because Michelle started us off, I get the pleasure of introducing Michelle. Michelle McCollum is up next, and I will return the virtual podium to her. I promise I won't talk very long. You heard a theme there earlier today that there's only a few of us that can listen well. But the one thing that I admire the most about Michelle is her courage. Her courage to walk into any situation, any room, virtual or otherwise, and respectfully challenge the status quo and respectfully challenge the conversation that's happening to make sure the greater good is heard. That courage is a role model for me. It's a role model for everybody. And Michelle, thank you so much for being that role model. And now, okay, I stop talking and I'll hand it back.
Thank you so much, Shauna. That's an incredibly kind and meaningful comment for you to make. I appreciate it very much, and thank you for your insight. And I think so many times that comments can be made that people don't even realize, the kind of meaning or hidden meaning in those comments. It can be extremely hurtful, and I also think that you're courageous for calling that out and making others aware, and so hopefully they can learn from that and not do that again to others. So thank you so much, Shauna. So we're actually ready now to move to our next portion. I think we're going to spend around the next 10 minutes and head into small group discussions. So you'll have the chance to engage with some of the women that you've already met. So on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see sessions. So please feel free to visit one. You may not have time to visit all of the sessions, but you'll certainly have time to visit at least one or two. And then we'll see you back here for more, to finish off the event and for more discussions shortly. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope you had a chance to chat and have some good conversations. I managed to hear a few of the conversations, and I heard about some other important conversations that were happening in some of the groups. And you'll recall that the whole purpose of the evening is to encourage, inspire, and create a safe space for us to be able to discuss some of the challenges that we have around gender bias and inequality. And so you'll notice that we now have our panel up here, and I'm so proud to have these amazing women by my side, many of whom I've served with since joining the board around 3 years ago, and some new members working for the first time and getting to know each other, but all incredible women. And so for the next little while, we're going to have a panel discussion, and you're welcome to share your questions in the stage chat. I do have, Christy is going to be texting me some of the questions that come in, so please feel free to put your questions into the chat. I do have some questions that I was really interested in asking my colleagues, and so I hope you don't mind, my friends. I'm just going to put you on the spot a little bit and ask you some questions. Is everyone up for that? Is that okay? Okay, so you know what, we're going to do a bit of a game with this. I'd like a volunteer, and then I'll tell you the question. How about that? Who would like to go first?
I'll go.
Okay, good for Vanessa. Okay, so Vanessa, can you tell me a little bit about how you've been juggling life through the pandemic? I mean, you have an exceptionally busy job. You've done such a great, such great things in making sure we at Maple Lodge, we keep food on the table for all of us. How have you been coping through all of this?
Yeah, it's been certainly a time unlike any other. I will start off by saying that I've never been more grateful to not have little kids. Having kids that are grown and big enough to look after themselves and not have to be schooled at home has been a huge blessing for me. So for those of you in that boat, my my heart and compassion is with you. God love you. If I had to homeschool my son, it would have lasted about 15 minutes, and I'm not sure who would have survived. So, my heart with all of you. And it's been kind of interesting because I will say at the beginning, and to think that it's been almost a year is unbelievable. I really wasn't home very much in March and April and May, to be honest with you. I was kind of working pretty much around the clock, home just long enough to kind of grab a few hours of sleep and get back at it. But again, I was really lucky, and I had to rely on my kids and my partner to help me get through that. So, for months, I didn't make a meal. I didn't walk the dogs. I didn't clean the house. But I'll tell you that all that stuff happened somehow in the background. And so I was pretty lucky to have that group. Also, having an amazing team at work has been so instrumental. And whether it's people that are working from home or people that have been kind of, in the office and in the plants with us day to day, just having knowing that we're kind of all in it together. Like times of crisis like this really tests a team, and you find out how good or how bad you are. And I'll tell you, we're good. We're really good. And so having people on the team that knew when I needed a laugh, having people on the team that knew when I needed to cry, and everything in between has been really helpful. I think the other thing I would say, and this is kind of a change for me in the new year, I'll be honest, I didn't take very good care of myself in 2020. I ate really badly. I didn't sleep nearly enough. I wasn't drinking enough water. I wasn't getting any exercise. And I'll be honest, over the holidays, when we had a little bit of downtime, not much, but a little bit, it hit me, and it hit me hard. And I knew that if we're going to get through another, I hate to say it, 12 months, 18 months of this before we're really through it, I knew I had to start taking care of myself a little bit better. So have trying to invest you know, at least making sure I'm eating healthy meals, making sure I'm getting lots of water every day, and when I can squeeze in a bit of fresh air and daylight, that's really helped too. So yeah, I think that's kind of the key is great support at home, great support at work, and remembering that if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. And making that commitment to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, Vanessa. Great points. And I know that there's been times, you know, and I'm sure we've been talking about this. It's just been so exhausting. And I'm usually a very regular working out, and I've been making excuses to myself about why I can't, and about why it's much better just to be in my pajamas and lie on the couch. And so like kind of having to say, come on, Michelle, get on. This is not who you are. Get on with things. So I could definitely relate to that. I'm getting a message that my internet is unstable, so if I do drop out, ladies, please continue. But I wondered, actually, I'm interested to ask the same question to Donna, because Donna with DynaCare, you know, again, in a work environment that just was completely turned around. So how have things been for you for the last year? No, I think you're on mute, Donna.
Mute? Okay.
Thank
you. Yeah, interesting question. I could go on all night. It's been a really challenging year. I have to say, one of the things that about this year has really taught me is that the importance of having amazing family, amazing friends, and amazing work colleagues. Without that unit, I don't think I would have survived. On a personal level, I was going through major changes on a personal level. And then at work, everything was turned upside down. I think for me, what got me through it, I really, in the past, I would say I would sacrifice my well-being to support whether what was going on at work or what was going on in my family. And this time around, I had a choice to make. And I think knowing how serious the pandemic was and the fact that it was going to take a very long period of time to get through this, I made a conscious decision to focus on myself and take care of myself. And from there, I felt I could offer my organization my very best. And from there, I felt I could offer my family, you know, my best. And in the past, it would have been different. I would have, you know, sacrificed everything and took care of myself last. So I shifted the paradigm this year. And I think because I realized that I needed the energy. It wasn't time. I needed energy to deal with the challenges that, you know, our community was facing, the challenges that our organization was facing. And I also, you know, I thought about what my company stands for, health and well-being, and I felt like, how am I going to inspire people or make people feel comfortable that we know what we're doing, that we're in control if I was out of control? And so there were some things that I really reflected on and I shifted. And that was my focus for the year. So really taking care of myself first was the cornerstone. And then I felt I could offer my company my best and offer my family my best. And that was the center. And that's not the norm for me. Oftentimes I'm usually the sacrificial lamb in the process.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for making sure that you have the oxygen and that you're able to keep the others around you supported. Yeah. For sure. I think that this is an interesting topic and very relevant to kind of keep exploring. But you know, all of us come from slightly different background, well, different industries and different perspectives. Shauna, you know, you have been working on some really important strategic initiatives with CN, and you've also recently taken on a new role. So how has been taking a new role on through the pandemic?
It has been an adventure, to say the least. And I want to echo the kind of sentiments from both previous answers, Vanessa and Donna. I do agree with Vanessa. Working for an essential service that is moving people's foods, that Maple Lodge Farms and others are trying to get into grocery stores and pharmacies and things. You know, you are getting up and you are going to work every day and you are making sure that, you know, things are moving. And so you forget that to get up and do that every day, you do have to take care of yourself. So I want to respect both of those ladies, because I've been where Vanessa was and had to make that choice. And I'm so proud of Donna for having made the choice better than I did. But it has been a challenge trying to establish relationships in a new role when you can't meet people. So even if we wanted to, 6 feet apart is really difficult still to establish new relationships. And I love the technology, and I am adopting every avenue I can to virtually connect with people, but it's still not the same. So I'm getting fatigue trying to figure out what are the different avenues that I can use to start establishing relationships with people I may not meet for another year, maybe. And we're still going to have to do business together, and we're still going to have to, you know, push things forward and move the economy and do all of these great things and keep people safe. So that's really where my challenge is now. Is I've accepted that I need to take care of myself first. I've got great role models and the ladies that came before me to tell me how I can do this and that it is possible. But then it's now really figuring out, how do I, as a relatively young female executive, take on a new executive role in an industry that is typically very boots on the ground? If we're a railroad, been around a few years, 100 give or take. So that's really, Michelle, where my challenge is. It's trying to figure out how to really connect. And if anybody has figured it out, it's Brampton Board of Trade. But in a new gig, trying to learn new industries and move new commodities, it's been a challenge.
So any advice there for Shauna? Pop it into the chat, and Christy will capture it, and I'm sure you'll have some great suggestions there. Really challenging. I know I have colleagues in the same boat, Shauna, and especially in my world, which is all about the built environment, colleagues that have never even seen the campus. That can be pretty challenging. And Kate, so maybe come to you now. You know, as a lawyer, you know, what has been the kind of biggest changes for you and in the world and the work world that you're in, and how has COVID impacted your work over the last year?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest change that we had to deal with was in my real estate practice. So as you can appreciate, deals were ongoing. People had bought homes, people were selling their homes, and suddenly we're entering into this world of, okay, we need to sign paperwork with ink pens. We need to get money from point A to point B and get people keys so that they can move. And by the way, you can't meet in person anymore, and you have to figure out a whole new way to do this. That was absolutely the biggest change in our field. We were very expressly disallowed from doing, frankly, almost anything virtually. And so, you know, every day as the COVID rules changed and as the Law Society rules changed and everybody tried to find a way to muddle through, it was an incredible challenge to keep up with everything that was changing, how those changes fit together, and all while also finding a way to adopt those changes and make it work for our firm and our team. You know, one of the things that really stands out in my mind from the past year, and this was probably about a year ago that this conversation took place, was, you know, I had a meeting with my team and said to them, we need to consider the possibility that we will not be allowed to come to the office, that we're going to have to do everything remotely. We're going to have to be calling each other and having Zoom meetings and move money somehow in a way that we've literally never done before. And so none of us know what that's going to look like right now, but we all need to start brainstorming because we're in this together and we've got to figure it out. And very much the credit of everybody. We've worked incredibly well together, have a wonderful team who's really bent over backwards to make it work. And when I look at what we're able to do and the tech that we have in place and the way that we've managed to come up with amazing new solutions compared to where we were a year ago, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean that I think that's the thing. And while things have been really difficult, there's also been some important changes and important improvements that have actually happened through the pandemic. You know, I think a comment was that in the last year we've seen 5 years of innovation. And speaking of innovation, Joanne, you have a very important, very senior role in your business at BNP Metals, and what has life been like for you over the last year, and in the industry like yours, how have you been able to innovate and adapt?
All right. Well, yes, we were fortunate to remain open. So essential services, all three business units. We had put a fair amount of CapEx spend just before COVID hit in March, and one of the things that maybe made our team rally quite quickly with onboarding technology, dealing with contact tracing, close contact work, commissioning a piece of equipment. We purchased a very large piece of lights out equipment that would be able to run multiple types of profiles, different types of material, all backed simultaneously. We could do large volume runs, transition from one part to another. We spent about $2 million on this piece of equipment. We, early in March, when COVID hit, we were in the midst of commissioning that piece of equipment. The commissioning team was from Finland, and very quickly they were repatriated back. So here we were, we had some large volume work that piece of equipment needed to be running for. We needed to commission it. We needed to train the operators, finish setting up the equipment, train on programming, and we had no teams to support us. So what kind of collaboration tools would we end up having to use? We ended up using TeamViewer, Teams. We managed to have staff in Finland communicating with our staff, and it's close contact work at the same time using headsets, different devices. And we managed to get that piece of equipment running, and then we had to train staff. And this was all in the month of March. Within a matter of 3 weeks, we onboarded technology at a tremendous pace, and trained persons to be able to operate, maintain the piece of equipment, and ensure that it was up and running so that we could meet the demands of some very large orders that we had received. Over the course of the year, for all three business units, there's been different challenges with innovating. With one of our business units that does precision cooling, we ship that product worldwide. And our customers, early in the COVID period, there was definitely an uptake in orders, but there was a lot of supply chain instability with parts arriving, and that forced us to look to other vendors and work alongside onboarding new supply chain for our companies. The COVID workplace guidance, the HR team did an amazing job maintaining the workplace guidance to be able to come into and out of the facility and ensure that families and workers were well. So it was a crash period. March, April, May were demanding, but we managed to continue to innovate even in the early phase of COVID.
Thanks so much, Joanne. And I really hear the common thread is how how everyone has been able to adapt and work together to keep going, and just so a lot of gratitude to everybody in our organizations who have done so much to make that happen. Shauna Kay, so you are in the tech world. My goodness, so much innovation, so much change, so much quickly adapting and helping everyone out to adapt themselves. How has the last year been for you?
I remember in March, I was saying, oh, this is going to be what, 2, 3 weeks. I'll just be able to, sleep late, get up in my pajamas. It's going to be no problem, no sweat. And I, like everybody here, we couldn't imagine what this would be a year later. And I didn't realize the impact it was having on me until the end of the year. I slowly started to answer my emails at 3 o'clock in the morning. I started not sleeping. It started chipping away at things where there was no longer you're at work, you're at home, and there's a separation. It was you're always working. You had nothing else to do. Other people are challenged. And then I felt like I was balancing two things where there was also a feeling of guilt and wanting to support and really wanting to connect and working through that. So trying to give more, but at the same time, not doing what I needed for myself. So it wasn't until about December where I was totally burnt out. I woke up one morning and I was like, I can't. I can't. I'd been up till 4 o'clock in the morning working on a proposal, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I think, like everybody here, we had to go through a period of reflection, a period of how do we keep moving forward, how do we support each other, how do we continue to make sure that we're building all of these great things we're doing, but at the same time taking care of ourselves. So it was a real journey for me, and ups and downs, highs and lows. And I think, like everybody here, it's a learning curve. And even with technology, it's constantly changing. And you have to think about security, and we're dealing with hacking like we've never seen, and we have to deal with all of these things that is new to us too, and we're constantly having to evolve with it. So it's just been an interesting time, but I feel like with the networks that we have here, the supports, we are able to see ourselves through to the next round.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Shauna Kay. And yeah, definitely, I think the support of each other and helping each other to get through this is incredible. Vanessa?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of add to that. It's, having a strong professional network um, has been invaluable. The number of times that I've reached out to this group, like through our board at the Brampton Board of Trade or to Todd at the Board of Trade, and said, like, I need help with this because I've never heard of this. I don't know what to do about this. And somebody out there knew the answers. I mean, Joanne and I we were in contact. Like, I just look around this table. Joanne and I were like, how are you getting techs here? Because I need to get techs here. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Donna at Dynacare. I need nurses on site. I don't have nurses. Oh, I have nurses, right? So like you don't realize how critical having a network is. Like we had some issues with some scales that the people that normally would deal with that aren't from the region. and all of a sudden we needed people from the region. So we reached out to somebody else on our board of trade. Like just having that network, like I can't tell you how many times I've used it this year, even just to say like, hey, did you see today's news conference? Because I'm not entirely sure what that means. Do you know what that means? And just helping each other navigate through, this is what I learned, this is what I learned, I think has really helped us have a better program at Maple Lodge for sure.
All right, that is an absolutely great plug for the Board of Trade, Vanessa, but absolutely true, absolutely true. So, lady, I have one final question for all of you together. How would you describe your favorite pajamas? What do they look like? And I'm going to call you out. Are you actually wearing them right now? Stand up. Let's see them.
So I
actually matched my pajamas to my dress. Like that's style. That's style.
So I neither match nor do I have my pajamas on, because I went straight from a work meeting to this event because I was not going to miss such an amazing event. So still a little bit of, gym clothes going on.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for being such a good sport with that. So I think we're just about to wrap up. That's just about all we have time for this evening. I want to sincerely thank each and every one of you, to all my fellow colleagues from the Board of Directors, to Justina and Christy and Lorraine, and our amazing CEO, Todd Letts, to all of you for joining us. It's commitment, it's having these important conversations, it's staying connected, really lifting up this really important network that will mean that we will continue to move forward to an inclusive and equitable future. Thank you so much to everyone who's participated this evening for all of your encouragement, all of your inspiring words. Before we head out tonight, I do want to look back to the beginning of the evening where we talked about Choose to Challenge. And you were invited to send a video describing how you will choose to challenge gender bias and inequality. And so that's how we're going to finish our main programme here tonight, with my sincere gratitude to all of you once again for being here and for celebrating International Women's Day together. I encourage you to watch this video and then feel free to jump back onto the networking. It will be open to 9:30 this evening. So thanks, a huge thanks again to Christy, Lorraine, Justina and Todd Letts. I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Take care, everyone. I choose to challenge by being positive, supporting others, being brave, but also being okay with showing vulnerability and setting that example for my daughter and other women.
I choose to challenge inequality by speaking up in rooms where I'm typically silenced.
Never giving up, never giving in when life gets tough. This song's for the soldiers, never call it quits. Live for the challenge, they can never get enough of this. Once upon a time we were dreaming.
I choose the challenge to respect one another no matter who they are.
Hi, it's Susie Godfroy, Downtown Brampton BIA, and today I choose to challenge us all to help build women's voices. Today I choose a stronger world where women feel safe to speak how they feel.
I choose to challenge both my niece and my nephew to be feminists, and to me, that means thinking about their privilege, as well as ensuring that they're opening doors for diversity and inclusion in terms of race, religion, age, sexuality, and of course, gender.
I choose to challenge by ensuring that every woman and girl has access to high quality, higher education.
I choose to challenge myself to encourage women in my life to be and do anything they can imagine.
I choose to challenge how we can eradicate human trafficking in Canada and stop the buying and selling of girls. It starts with us.
I choose to challenge by raising my voice to recognize and celebrate women's achievements across the world.
I choose to challenge by supporting women-owned businesses in our communities.
Let's
shake hands like